the time of COVID pandemic. The world is fast changing, the economy, the environment, and every daily lives are isolated, but at that time there is a value that we have to all focus on, the chain-linked global network. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Global Emerging Network in Economy GENIE Forum Storage Demo Day. So we are doing this session via online. My name is Park Hae-eun and I'll be your MC today. Welcome again to GENIE Forum Storage Demo Day. We are today with Korea SMEs and Startups Agency and Korea Startup Association. Korea Startup Association promotes the continuous growth of young startup companies, supports a regionally balanced startup ecosystem, and represents the common interests of young startup companies as well. And the Korea SMEs and Startups Agency has been with us for 42 years and has been supporting SMEs as well. At this post-COVID era, they are supporting the SMEs to create new jobs and to support the growth of these SMEs as well. So because of COVID-19 situation, we are running online. And we ask for your understanding for that. We also like to have your continued interest and support. You are now with the Storage Demo Day, but more events are broadcast online according to the program schedule. Please check the GENIE Forum website for more information. First, let me invite to the stage President Hwang Man-soon of Korea Startup Association for his opening remarks. So good afternoon. My name is Hwang Man-soon, President from Korea Startup Association. So actually, I started to work as president, it's been like quite a few months. So normally I introduce myself as a CEO. What I do is doing investment in venture capital, so that's what I do normally. Talking about Korea Startup Association, there are startup booms and it will grow further. So for the companies, actually they are experiencing a real life situation. They have many challenges. So we wanted to support these new startups as well. That's how we started. So we use the word youth, and it's in the Korea Startup Association. But this is what I think. When people wants to do a startup, most of them are youth. Most of them are young. So even though when I look at their faces, they don't seem very young, I always use the word youth. So here in Jeonju, we're doing the first day of our GENIE Forum. Personally, well, let's say officially, I want to thank President Kim Hak-do. And it's been a long time I've met him personally. So I'm very delighted. And I want to thank him again for supporting the GENIE Forum as well. So recently, in USA, we have the tapering. And in China, we have more regulation. In Korea, the interest is going up. So for the startups, they have more challenges compared to the past. And that's a possibility. But still, for the Koreans, we work very well. So the companies who are here with us at the Storage Demo Day, maybe in the future they can be a unicorn. They will be listed on KOSDAQ. That's what we believe. So at the association, we want to support them by our earnest. And I want to thank everyone for coming today. out of your busy schedules. And all the viewers, I want to thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chairman, for your warm greetings and your affection towards startups. I got to know that good influence over young startups, development of startup ecosystem, and warm support for young generations are the missions that Korea Startup Association pursue. Next, I would like to invite President Kim Hak-do of Korea SMEs and Startups Agency for his congratulatory remarks. My name is Kim Hak-do, the president of Korea SMEs and Startups Agency. Chairman Hwang Man-soon, thank you very much, and it's great to see you again. It's been a long time. And thank you again for preparing for this wonderful event. Startups are the future of Korea, and this is a great opportunity to see all the prominent startups and entrepreneurs at this wonderful and important forum. You're still young. Although Mr. Hwang said some of you are fairly aged, and President Kim Sa-yul and spokesperson Kim Bo-hyun from the Presidential Committee, thank you very much for your interest and enthusiasm and for the dedication of the Presidential Balanced Development Committee. And thank you all who are watching this event online. Your dedication is a great contribution to the nation's development of startups. This is to build a global network and to secure diversity of the startup ecosystem. Storage Demoday literally is a venue for companies who want to become a unicorn, and that is why this is furthermore meaningful. Recently, due to COVID-19, we are going through difficult times, and it is not an exception for SMEs. Nevertheless, a lot of unicorn companies in Korea, which is 15, and that is a record high. And so far, we have 3 more unicorn companies in the first half of 2021. And that suggests that the transformation of the Korean economy that used to be centered around the large companies, and now it's moving towards younger and more diverse ecosystem of startups and businesses. Due to COVID-19, we also have some positive changes, as mentioned, and ICT-based startups will find more opportunity and more chances for growth, and that will greatly contribute as a source of the national economic development. Korean New Deal was announced by the Korean government, and we also have the regional New Deal measures. And my agency, according to that deal, have had some measures accordingly. We have 32 branches nationwide, and these headquarter branches provide customized and tailored services to nurture prominent and promising startups and businesses. And we have some project to promote such companies. And the government is pursuing regulation-free economic zone, and the companies in those zones, we have about 400 companies, and through these companies, we can create more jobs and opportunities. And we also have some challenge program for these zone, so we can quickly commercialize their ideas and their new projects. And my agency stands by it. K Unicorn Project is one example. We have about 100 prominent companies nationwide, and they are taken care of by our 32 branches of the headquarters, and they will eventually become unicorn companies by utilizing my agency's budget, and this will be some sort of marathon running by runner after runner. And we are also running the academy, and we have over 1,000 trainees through the program equipped with the global capability, and that's been going on very well. And I'm sure the Storage Demo Day is also a good opportunity for regional startups and businesses in order to open a new chapter of the new era. And through this opportunity, I hope we can see more innovative startups, and I hope them to be connected to the government programs and initiatives to be nurtured further. And for the sustainable growth of the nation, regional balanced development is crucial, and there, young startups have a lot of roles to play, and it is essential. Once again, I hope and I urge you more enthusiasm and support in order to contribute to the national economic development by doing their own role. And as a president, I guarantee you my agency will fully materialize and utilize our resources to support all of you. Once again, I would like to congratulate on this storage demo day, and I hope you have great result, and I wish you health and happiness in the future. Thank you.
President Kim, thank you again for your kind words. You said the startups are the backbone of a national growth. Thank you very much. We will also do our best to support them, and I expect a bright future. Next, spokesman Kim Bo-hyun of the Presidential Committee for Balanced National Development will deliver the congratulatory remarks.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Kim Bo-hyun, spokesperson of the Presidential Committee for Balanced National Development. I wish that the President Kim Sa-yeol of the committee to be here with you, but I apologize for his absence. Storage Demo Day is filled with potential and prominent startup entrepreneurs. And once again, I would like to thank President Kim Hak-do of the Korea SMEs and the Startups Agency, as well as Chairman Hwang Mun-sun of a Korean Startup Association for this wonderful event. Under the vision of a well-developed, well-balanced development, Korea has been pursuing various balanced measures for national development. In particular, as a Korean New Deal's main pillar, regional balanced development has been important to create new jobs and nurturing new talents, and we have been doing so to establish a virtual circle. To establish a new economic network, we want to have various projects to nurture international capability building for businesses. And that is why this is a great opportunity and the venue to meet all the capable startups and business entrepreneurs. And I hope at this to become a more international and genuinely international platform. In Jeollabuk-do province, we have Interkeg, and the biggest recycling, high-tech, and other innovative companies are residing in this province of Jeollabuk-do. They started as regional and local companies that have become genuinely international, and we have many more examples. And that was possible because consulting, timely investment, And great events like GENIE Forum or Storage Demo Day, and that helped secure more investment as a hub for the international network. And I believe Demoday will play its role in the future as well. I'm so sorry. Creative and innovative companies can create more jobs, and that can help imbalance situation of the regional economy, and it will be a great remedy for the region. And I hope this can contribute to the regional economy as well as the national economy. Last, despite COVID-19, I would like to thank all startup members and entrepreneurs and all those who prepare for this wonderful event, even on online and offline. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. You mentioned the sustainable development, and for that goal, startups has a big role in that. I believe you mentioned that. Thank you very much, President Hwang Man-soon, President Kim Hak-do, and spokesman Kim Bo-hyun. Thank you again for your kind words. The Storage Demo Day, we are sending you online for 2 days. Storage Demo Day stands for Startup Towards Revolution at GENIE Forums. It has two meanings. So in GENIE Forum, we are moving towards the revolution here at the GENIE Forum. And the second meaning is that it can capture everything in the startup ecosystem. Now we will have a session to get some insights for this startup revolution. Actually, I've heard that despite the COVID-19 pandemic, investments in startups are getting more and more popular in France. And investments made by global companies are also on the increase. So now let's learn a little bit about French startups and Korean startups and their strategies. So may I now invite Mr. Solomon Moose, Director of Seoul of French Tech. Please give him a big round of applause.
여러분 안녕하십니까? 솔로몬 모스입니다. My Korean won't go that much further, but it's my great honor to be here today, representing here the French government who wanted to send its greatest regards with the Ambassador Lefort, who unfortunately was not able to make it here today in Jeonju, and as well as myself representing the French tech community and the startup world from France, but very linked to Korea. I also wanted to thank President Mr. Kim Hak-do, President Mr. Hwang Man-soon, and also spokesman Mr. Kim for also having us here, and for all the organizers making this second edition of GENIE, which we are really happy and honored to be part of. Today, we'll be introducing France, we'll be introducing Korea, and we'll be introducing how startups in general, not just Korean, can become international. Because, as Mr. Hwang mentioned, Korean startups are the backbone of this new economy. We are living in a stage of very exciting time. This is a new dynamic, a once in a lifetime, a once in an era even, where across the world we are seeing innovation being sprung by the youth, be it not in terms of age, but in terms of the youth of the companies, to take over our traditional economy and even to go and compete against the biggest companies in this world. So one of the key points in today is to understand why startups should grow to become global startups. I really appreciate organizing extremely high-level conferences like the GENIE today, because this is an event and an opportunity to be able to continue to build bridges between the Korean ecosystem and the rest of the world. And these exchanges on the international scene is what is key to make the world, in fact, a better place. So first of all, some interesting data. we saw that Korean startups do want to go overseas. However, in fact, less than 40% have really started implementing an overseas strategy and being able to develop themselves outside of Korea. But many consider doing that. Over 70% of Korean startups are planning to go abroad. But now, this is very good, and the key term of going global, going abroad, becoming an international startup is something we hear every day. We should come back a bit to the fundamentals and understand why, who should do it, and how should you become an international startup? Well, first of all, the question which might seem a bit too logical is why should startups expand internationally? Well, the first point is that when you become an international group, you are building an international brand. And this is something you can monetize down the road. You will be able to, if successful, boost your profits. Markets are going to be expanding. And this is going to be key for your top line and your bottom line. Revenue diversification is part of the profit boosting. And this goes with the fact that you will be increasing, in fact, your market shares, your client base, and at the end of the day, your long-term success. It's also talents, because what we see in startups, it's very difficult. And as Mr. Huang, I come on the investment side from Eurazeo, one of the largest European VC firms. And when you invest in a startup, you don't really have any numbers to back your investments. So it's a question about people, about ideas, and about trusting how a person can be able to implement this plan with a team and to be successful. So talent is always at the key of a startup. And when you are global, you are able to have a larger pool of talents. And at the end of the day, we need to think that when you are building a new company, you need to have a sustainable plan. And a sustainable is in terms of your business, but also in terms of the tech for good and the tech for a better world. And we are convinced at the French Tech that being able from the start to implement this view is a key aspect for the success of the companies. So now, who should go global? Well, first of all, if your market size is small, well, you should be considering going global relatively quickly. The second is the commitment of the founders. This goes back to the team. If the founders are not committed to go global, well, it's going to be difficult to be able to achieve successfully this global expansion. Third is the product. Do you have a clear market fit? Is the product you or the service you are offering in your local market, has it already found its purpose, its match? Because it's very difficult to find a market fit in different markets at the same time. Now, localization. Can your business be localized? Does it need to be localized? Can you do it from your main country or your local country? Or do you need to invest on becoming more local? The two last points is distribution. This goes back a bit to the localization. Can you distribute offline? Or do you need to have a physical presence? And this will have a very strong impact on how you will be able to internationalize yourself. And the last point is financing. We are in startups. It is fast-growing companies. These are very ambitious companies. And to be able to successfully expand and achieve what they are looking for, they need financing, like a lot of things in this world. And so do they have the right financing to be able to cover the additional costs? Now, after looking at who, why, when, is the question of when you should go overseas. Well, one of the best case is when you already have existing international customers. This is one of the ways to facilitate, in fact, your expansion into an overseas market. The first customers you have overseas are your key customers. Treat them as you would treat any other of your customers, but with even some more respect because they are the ones that are trusting you from this earlier stage. Competition is also key. If you are competing on a market, startups these days need to have a global view. If you are Google in Korea and you want to go to Asia, well, you need to go there before there's a local one. And I view this very interesting when we see a company such as Tangen Markets, Carrot Markets, which is in a position with a very unique model. And they will be copied. They will be, people will try to adapt their model to other countries. So will they let these competitors in overseas take their model before, or should they go abroad aggressively to be able to capture those markets? We have scale and new growth. When a company is starting to slow down its local market, it's important for them to start looking for extra growth overseas. And there is always the opportunistic approach. And this is something that happens, in fact, a lot of the times for startups. So how do you start to go global? Again, there is no one size fits all. Each startup has its own characteristics, and each startup will have to play with its own cards. But some startups have the luck that they don't need much investments to go overseas. They can do this remotely, selling online or selling via digital distribution. This is the case for example, SaaS companies, software as a service. Some companies need to localize, and at the end of the day, it will always be important to have a local presence, to have this connection. Another way is through investments, M&A, buying a new company, or even joint venture, being able to find partners, a big one, small one, same size one, that will be able to allow you to enter that market. These are all key factors and key vectors to be able to enter into these new markets. Now, going global is not risk-free, and we are in startups, and we are on what we call venture capital. We are taking risk. And again, just on a sidestep, this is why it is so important to have the backing of the government and the support of all these different associations and agencies, which are promoting this, in some sense, risk for people to start startups, start new ideas that might revolutionize the current industry and be able to digitalize the overall economy. So some of the risk is your extension of your organization. If your company becomes too extended across the globe, well, you're going to be faced with problems on cultural problems, language problems, core values. Are the values going to be shared if you're, headquartered in Korea and have a subsidiary in France? Are the people at those offices going to share the same values? Systems, process. And these points might seem very far away, but in fact, if from the beginning you have not taken this into consideration, you will be faced with huge headwind down the road when you try to understand how to establish your system, your process as a global firm. Now we have different customers and sales cycles. Each country has sometimes its own way of doing business or its own way of buying. In this, you need to adapt. You need to localize sometimes your products. You have this complexity of each country in localizing your different service and product, and this is cost. Do you have enough financing to cover this cost? And do you have the commitment to be able to stay there until the success arrives? Now, sometimes we're dependent on third-party, let's say, partners, and this can be when you have distribution agreements or even joint ventures. Are you aligned? Is the alignment the same? Is it a bit different? Are you aware of it? And these, again, are very key factors in your internationalization. And then one which is very difficult to predict is the macro instability. If you go, and I'm thinking, for example, at some countries where regulation might change, and it will affect your business. You might not really have the possibility to predict this. So this will have an impact. And this is unfortunately very hard to predict. But if you have the commitments, and if you have the mindset as a global company from the start, you will be able to build a story and share, in fact, what you are providing in terms of product or service to the rest of the world. And this is where the French Tech comes in, and this is what we wanted to also introduce. There are bridges, and I'm talking here specifically for Korea. There are bridges to be able to help accelerate and help to become successful in this risky internationalization. And you should leverage this. Korean startups should really leverage this, and one of them is the French Tech. The French Tech, in fact, is a brand. This has gone, and I believe that France and Korea share a very similar philosophy in terms of technology. Both governments saw the opportunity and the need, the necessity to have a very strong startup community and startup ecosystem. And in France, we call this the French Tech. This is all the startups in France, no matter if you are French or from overseas, that you come in France and create your startup here. And this was a very good move from the French government to offer this goodwill, this sort of brand which could be shared and which would grow as soon as the companies would become more and more successful. When we have one new unicorn in France, well, this provides an additional value to the goodwill that all the startups that are French-rooted can utilize. And the French Tech, in fact, since the start, we've managed to build a very thriving ecosystem. And this year, as is shared across the globe, but France managed to accelerate in an incredible rhythm, have managed to create over 20,000 startups, 23 unicorns. We raised over 5 billion euros in 2020, and we are going to be breaking that record very easily this year in 2021. We just had the highest fundraising week in history, with 1 billion being raised across 3 companies in the past 2 weeks. And this has had a positive impact of creating over 700,000 direct jobs for the French economy. This is also sustained by the government, but by also private financing, such as the VCs, with over 700 VCs and also accelerators being able to sustain and support this network. We've created an index of our French tech companies. We have the next 40, the 40 strongest and biggest tech companies and more mature. We have the French Tech 120, which is the 120 startups in France, which are the most mature and the fastest growing. And we even created the Green Tech, which is providing all the different startups that have an impact. And again, this is a key part for the sustainability of the startup movement and also of the economy as a global future. But the French Tech is not just France, it's a global network. It's 13 French Tech capitals, it's over 45 French Tech communities in France, and it's over 60 communities across the world, including in Seoul. So startups from Korea that want to expand in France, but not just, can utilize the French Tech to be able to accelerate and sustain their development overseas. It's also a great opportunity for Korean startups to access France. France has carried out some very strong incentives for overseas startups, including startups from Korea, to be able to go and do research and development. We have one of the largest pool of engineers, but also tax incentives. And so all startups that will go to France will benefit from these incredible incentives that have been put forward by the French government. And to finish, I'll just share a few words on the French Tech Seoul. French Tech Seoul is a community. It's the hub of the French Tech globally, based in Seoul, in South Korea. And the French Tech Korea is really here to connect the Korean startups with the French startups and with the overall World French Tech Network. It's also here to help French startups come to Korea and interact. And within the French network of the French Tech, we have large corporates from some of the biggest names in France of the CAC 40, the largest 40 companies in France. We have some of the unicorns of France that are here and that are also looking very actively to implement their development in Korea. And we have some very key Korean startups and Korean corporates that are here to be able to interact with us. So it's a very thriving community where exchange is really free and here to be able to promote and help these companies grow overseas. For the key activities, the French Tech community is offering a free, in fact, network. This is entirely free. People just join and can find, their benefits going through the community. This is market access. If you're looking to understand what is happening in France, what are the incentives and how you can develop yourself over there. It's networking. This includes talents, includes also business opportunities or partnership opportunities. And it's an overall community of strategy and planning, of communication, of frequent events. And we have different events, even though it is COVID, every month on a digital platform where we are really trying to promote interactions between people, even on a digital platform. And again, our organization, it's 10 French Tech members, one community coordinator from a wide range of different industries, from the finance industry, from the startup industry, from the corporate industry, all linked to this one goal of being able to help the markets and the startup ecosystems in Korea and France really mingle together and grow stronger mutually. And this is one of the key things that we are all trying to do, in which I'm very happy to be here today to have presented this to you. So please don't hesitate to join the French Tech community, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. 감사합니다.
Thank you again, President Solomon Moose. Thank you for your kind words. So He talked about what strategies we have to go global and what bridges we have. So thank you again for the presentation. The storage demo day is being run online as part of the government social distancing measure. So we are running for 2 days. So more events are now broadcast online according to the program schedule at the GENIE Forum. So please check the GENIE Forum website for more information. So next we will hear from our next speaker, healthcare and beauty care platform company Good Doc will do the presentation. Through the IT-based platform, they are opening new horizons in the healthcare and beauty care fields with creativity and innovation. They're now listed on KOSME as the first domestic O2O company. Please welcome President Im Jin-seok from Good Doc. He will talk about the IPO solutions for startups. So good afternoon. My name is Im Jin-seok. I'm from Good Doc. So what I will be speaking today is talking about what scale-ups are and what startups are. What's the difference? And the scaled up startups, how they have to do IPO and how we are doing. So Good Doc has been on Care Labs starting last year, and we came out again as a startup. So what scale-up strategies we are using? So that's what I want to talk about today. What is a scale-up? So let's talk about what scale-ups are. So we are familiar with the term startup, but scale-up, we do not hear that every day. So the biggest difference is startups are determining whether their products should fit the market, while as startups have already determined the product and they have unit economics. So these are the two main differences. They are focusing on scaling up. So that again are the main differences. So startup is talking about starting, and scale up is about expanding. So let's talk about the stages that startup companies and scale up companies are. So, like I said, whether they have the product market fit or not. So that is the biggest difference. So when you're at the startup stage with less than 10 people with you, you're thinking about whether the world needs our product, whether we have customers that can be fans, whether they would be paying actually for our product. So we are doing many experiments to figure that out, whereas scale ups has passed that stage already. They're thinking about if you put X one or dollar into your business, you can get something in return. So getting investment is easier, and the return on investment is again easier. So that's the main difference I'm talking about. So again, when we're dividing the two startups and scale-ups, when we're talking about the funding stage, of course it might differ country to country. Startups are at the seeding and Series A stage, and the scale-ups have gone past the Series B. So the role of team members is different as well. One person perform multiple roles in startup. In scale-up stage, we need more specialization. And the main reason for that is that there are more people as well. So the message takes longer and gets distorted in scale-up stage because there are more and more people. So if we have more than 30 people, that message gets very easily distorted. So we need a system, we need a process to get rid of that distortion. And product market fit is closely related to unit economics. I talked about putting a dollar into your business, you can get something in return, which gross margin we have. That structure is very vague in startup. it changes every time we do business, but in scale up stage, it gets very clear. So the term unit economics, so it's an English term, of course, and I'm sure the Korean people are not familiar with unit economics. So this is an example. So this is a mobility company named Bird, personal micromobility company. They wanted to compare themselves with Uber and Lyft and which uniqueness they have. So this is an actual data that Bird made, and they were able to get a $75 million funding. So if you take a look at it, uh, I don't have a laser pointer here, so you can see the Uber part and the Lyft part. It shows the cost of driver, cost of ride, cost of payments, cost of cancellation, and insurance. So it shows the final margin and pro forma contribution there. So how much is the contribution? There's a comparison. So in overall, Uber and Lyft are losing because the driver fee is too high, whereas Bird, from one transaction, they have a 30% pro forma contribution. So they were saying that they have already the system. So why is this unit economics important? Actually, it is a different term for product market fit. If we have good unit economics, we have good uh, product market fit. So money gets more money. So this is from Bird. This is their balance sheet. So they had a negative contribution margin, but they exceeded the critical mass and they improved their product as well. So they started to have 30% unit economics and pro forma contribution. So this is a common way for startups headed to scale ups. They are experimenting whether they can have contributions, and then they arrive at a point where there is actual contribution. But when you calculate pro forma contribution, we have to exclude the fixed cost. So that's an investment point of view. So if you look at this figure, only this figure, you can think about if I put some money in that company, then this company can give 30% contribution back. So you can see that here. So this is the start of financing cycle. You can read this valley of death. And many companies actually face death here at the valley of death. And then you have this series A and B. You have early stage, you have later stage, and after that, they get listed on the public market through IPO. So during that journey, they start negative but end up positive. Again, the startup life cycle. You can see the maturity here and the valuation and the investment. You go from seed, Series A, Series B, and then you go public. So I brought this up because you start as a scale up, and then to scale up and to IPO, you get these stages. So this is made in Europe. So in Korea, things might be a little bit different, but from the big picture, this is how the startup grows and becomes a scale up company. This is a sad figure. I'm sure you have startup companies here as well. What is the possibility you should be thinking of survival? Maybe you can uh, go to astronomer, but you can see here that the percentage gets very, very low. So growing from a scale up to from a startup to scale up is very difficult. So you have to have product market fit and unit economy. And once you have that, the possibilities are much bigger in that stage. So let's go to IPO strategy. So this is more focused to Korean companies. If you want to do IPO, that's good to think about. So you have to think how you are going to do that. There are methods, requirements, target market, and valuation point of view. So that these are four perspectives. Method, you have direct listing. You think about the business growth, and you think about the safety, business performance. And recently, there's more and more special listings. You get technology evaluated, you get growth recommendation or Tesla requirements. Growth recommendation and Tesla requirements are quite not very different. So even if you have not much return, not much profit, still you have a way to get actually an IPO. And there's a question of target market, whether it is local or USA or other countries, and whether you will be valuing uh, based on your profit or sales. There are many structures, so the your strategies to IPO may differ as well. So in the past, when we talk about IPO, we were only talking about direct listing, get a solid growth, but things are a little bit different these days. You get spec ups, and the listing has been a little bit easier compared to the past. Easier to go to the public market. Actually, is the key of doing the startup as well. So let me talk about now about actual cases, how these companies went to scale ups.
First case is Flito. It is the first case of the specialist of technology, and they use the idea of corpus, and it is very important source for searching. And they resell such product, and based on very specific model of corpus, and they were able to reduce the cost and circulate the concept of corpus again, and that was the case of the special listing. In 2019, in July, they had their peak, and then the capital total is about 107 billion won. And because it was the very first case of a special listing, they were in red and they didn't have a lot of revenue. But through listing, they were able to have more flexible budget and capital flowing. And in the first quarter of 2021, they reached the 3.2 billion of the revenue. And second case is Wanted Lab. They started their company in April 2015 and got listed in August in 2021. Only in 6 years they were able to be listed, and this is one of the fast pace example. And even though they were specially listed, but their capital right now is about 256 billion won, and they have been showing great remark. And we expected to have a revenue of 31.1 billion in 2021, and they actually show this number as doubled from that of last year. Case 4 is Zoom Internet. You know Zoom.com? You can imagine Zoom.com. Zoom.com is from Eastsoft, and then it was spinned off in 2011. They started and then listed in 2019, and specifically they were a merged case of the listing by spec. And then you see the long line between 2011 and 2019. Well, they were listed, but they didn't have the business activities, and they maintained until 2019. But by merge listing, they have some changes, and the capital is about 140 billion, and they expected to. They actually achieved 21.4% of the growth. Last case is Care Labs. As mentioned before, this is the very first O2O listing. And this is the combination of, or more like a union of the companies get listed. Bobby Talk, Good Talk, Bivalsi, and all startups were merged as one entity to be listed. And the capital is about 143 billion. And how did we scale up? When we first combined all these startups, we started in 2017, and we had about 40 billion of the revenue. But through continuous scale up, the revenue this year is expected to be 92.1 billion. And after listing, they have shown very stable situation. Next, I would like to talk about scale up strategies of a good duck. So there are lots of methods to go listed, and depending on the method, once you are listed, you have a pretty different ways to draw capital for your growth, and you see more different versions and variations of the growth. So we are now doing some scale up for the future IPO. Then how do we do our scale up right now, and what focuses we have is my topic next. In 2012, we started a Good Duck service, and we merged with the Care Labs in March 2018, and we came back as a startup, and we are still doing scale up by physical division since July 2020. Offline businesses and online users are meeting on our platform, and we have similar companies in different areas like Yanulja, Ua Brothers, Kakao Mobility, and we are targeting big offline businesses, helping them transferred onto online. And we have about cumulated downloads of 7.5 million times, and MAU is about 1.5 million people. And if you go to the hospital, they do not use paper anymore. They can use the tablet PC to receive patients' visit, and we have about 3,200 hospitals doing that with us. And you search hospitals, book doctor's appointment, and they can do some virtual treatment by the doctor, and there are some treatments that they want to search not by covered by insurance. These are all the searches that users can do. So this is basically number one platform to connect hospitals and patients. And quantitatively, this is obviously number one platform that is still scaling up. So in Asia, hopefully we can create this as the biggest platform between the hospitals and patients, and we still go on. This is quite qualitative, but maybe if you want to follow us, you have to decide which part you want to quantitative first, maybe like the revenue or the number of patients. But for us, it was traffic, revenue, and target markets. And these were the gradual approach that we took to scale up. Last year, we recorded about 9 billion of the service charge. And I mentioned we are focusing more on the traffic than the revenue. So I mentioned about 3,200 hospitals, and we want to expand that number of the membership and the hospitals joining our platform. And based on that first focus, we want to realize 100 billion won of revenue a year, and that is our scale up plan. And through that, by stage, this is the milestone that you can see in revenue, MAU, and the number of clients. By Series C, we can reach 90 billion revenue and 25,000 clients, and this is our goal. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because when people do some platform businesses or product or technology businesses, any businesses, doesn't matter if it's based on client or based on plant, you need to set up milestone for your scale up, and then you should do it gradually, step by step, and it's very important from our experience, and that's how we've been growing. And we expand the client network, and then based on the desirable traffic, and we can also increase the sales, and eventually we can reach to the point of IPO. So all these information I introduced today to you might be useful for scaling up, tips for some startups, maybe like unit economics or product marketing, and hopefully you can enhance the more opportunities for scaling up. And as mentioned, in European market, in North American market, we can connect to a lot of startups in different regions and go global. Thank you very much. I'm sure that was useful and insightful, and from startup to scale up. And it was very interesting topic with a lot of cases by Mr. Im Jin Suk. And I'm sure it can be very helpful for the growth strategies. And we are soon will have some pitching, but we are going to have 10-minute break before we start session 2 with 3 pitching.
Welcome back, everyone. Let us now start the startup pitching session of the second GENIE Forum Storage Demo Day. So we have startup pitching with 3 companies, and all of them are best performers from the KOSME Startup Academy. Please remember, we have 10 minutes presentation time and 5 minutes Q&A time. So first company is N2C. Display panel is one of Korea's core technologies. And N2C is using the display panel technology on furniture and home appliances. And they're researching and producing more practical products. So this is a startup company that actively copes with the fast-changing market trends, taking challenges with endless passion. Company that wants to make a happier lifestyle, combining future and the latest technology. Please welcome CEO Oh Jae-hwan of N2C. Good afternoon. I'm from N2C. My name is Oh Jae-hwan. I'm the CEO of the company. So we are mainly focusing on see-through displays. So let me start my presentation. So it's been a long time since I did my last presentation, so I feel tense, but I will start. So when we think about interior market and remodeling market, the market has grown about 20% in a few years because of COVID-19 and work at home. The interior market is growing. So last year, the market size was 60 trillion won. So when we look at the interior trends, in the 1990s, we had classic interiors. And in the year 2000s, we started to care about designs and green materials as well. So in the future? So we are forecasting smart and combined with IoT. That is what we are expecting now. So functionality is the key. So when we look at the vehicles, the market has turned from internal combustion to interior. So again, I expect that the interior market will grow further. And the door to that is actually the door. We have two kinds of door, the opaque door and the see-through door. So the see-through door has some issues that the light actually goes inside. So to cope with this issue, we need a technology that can cope with the two problems as well. And it has to be not that expensive as well. So N2C focused on this market. The term N2C comes from the word into and see. And in Korean, it means actually it means in 2 o'clock. So when we started, we focused on this feature. When there's a motion, we can actually see what's inside. So in 2019, we were awarded globally. And I graduated from the 9th term of the Startup Academy. And we were awarded. And actually, we are working with LS Houses. We are their primary partner. And so so we are attracting investments. And we are selected one among the 100 strong materials, parts, equipment startup companies. So this is an advertisement of LS Houses. So this is the lower end of the storage. When you get close, the sensor senses you, and then it becomes transparent. So this is our technology. So people asked whether it's a smart window technology or not. This uses LCD, liquid crystal. This uses high polymer substance. And so when you're at the front, you can see what's inside. And when you go to the side, you cannot see through it. So smart window market was mainly aiming the windows. But the crystal display gets affected by the sunlight. So just like in your smartphones, actually the LCD is liquid, so it gets affected by the sunlight and gets deteriorated. So that is one of the main reasons that the smart window market could not grow further. And again, this is very expensive. And when the area gets large, it requires high voltage. And the installation is difficult either. But we are focusing, however, the smart home market, like sink, wardrobes, shoe cabinets. So when we look at a shoe or a clothes, we normally open the door. So it has to be not expensive and it has to be easy to install. So we cannot use smart windows for these purposes. You might have heard of this LG knock-on refrigerator that came to market in 2017. You knock on the door and it gets transparent. It was very expensive. And when you see this door, there is a kind of transparency from the beginning, and when you knock it, it gets clearer. And the second way to do this is a metal coating. And when you coat metal thick, you cannot see what's inside. So the coat is like a micrometers thick, and it's very hard to do the coating, and you can only use it on a glass base, and it cannot be flexible as well. Our transparent doors use PC and PMMA. PMMA is used for bulletproof windows. The PC is used for bulletproof windows. PMMA is used for acrylic builds. And we use these materials as well, and we also use glasses as well. And we can apply the perfect black color. So a little bit about our technology. We use 35 nanometer technology, and we use PEC and PMMA, like I mentioned. And so normally we cannot see inside, and the water does not get through the window. And when an LED is lighted on, we can then see what's inside the door. Talking about IPs, so we've been operating for 3 years. We've been focusing on IP protection for about 2 years in the past. So compared to LG Technologies knock-on, it was listed on 2016, and their refrigerator came out in 2017. But we did our patent in 2015, so we were 3 months earlier. LG used coating, and we used PC and PMMA, and we were focusing ossuaries and more home appliances, and expanded to other home appliances as well. We are aiming at applying 8 patents, and only I can be able to see what are the actual contents. So we are now going to the US and China market. We are also developing new products. This is the P apartments. We used our panels in their shoe cases. So they will be showing this in their model houses starting next year. And like I said, we are primary partners of LG Houses. And the way you open the door, you open it with your hands and you force it open, but we are using hidden doors in our new type of furnitures. This will be on TV ads starting next year, January. So we are selling to LS Houses. They are displayed in about 95 display showrooms, so you can actually see our products in LX Houses showrooms. They are number 1 in floors and windows in Korea, and they are investing a lot. So our products are listed as their partners combined with IoT and other technologies. Sales-wise, we are expecting 1.5 billion won per year. That's our expectation, and it's actually growing year on year. Global sales. So before 2019, before COVID-19, I went to Vietnam with my technologies. I told them if they only come with an affiliate, then they can have much sales. That's what I told them. And Israel, Australia, Singapore, I'm currently sending them samples and having online meetings with them. So the most important company is Haier, a Chinese company that produces refrigerators. And that company is one of our main targets. So our strong parts is appliances. So in an apartment, you have about 36 doors in one apartment. So actually the market is very big. So only if we can provide 8 doors for an apartment, and think about that. Let's say there are 2,000 apartments in an area. And we can use these doors to appliances where people have to look inside to check what's inside, and they can do it without opening the door. Like I mentioned, the interior market is about $60 trillion, and we can have our technologies in display utilities and securities and other areas as well. So we can use them in ossuaries and chemical containers. When it comes to ossuaries, there's this privacy issues where only you and your family have to be able to see what's inside. So last year our sales was about 1.3 billion won. This year, LG is quite doing not quite well because of COVID-19. So we were expecting our sales would reach the $2 billion mark, but we're doing like 1.8 billion. Next year, we are expecting we can do 5 billion won sales, because we are now working on several products, 5 or 6 products, and in 5 years, we are focusing IPO, of course, and we are attracting many investments at the time. We have our factory in Asan, Chungnam area. We are working with LG, and we have some support from SMEs and Startups Agency, and we have preparing for a mass production here. And we have about 1 billion won investment and personal investments as well, about 0.5 billion won. So for me, I used to do OLED, and I have about 10 years experience. I stopped working at that field in 2018, started with director Chano Kim. He is very a handy person. So I did some R&D, and we have met our manager Won Sang-hee. He's been in a materials area in the past, so he's working on that. So frankly speaking, I'm not a youth, literally, but like 80% of our workforce is very young. There are youth. They're working very hard. From production to QC, most of the things are run by young people. So our strength, to end with, we have a lot of applications because our product is a see-through door. A challenge is that not many people are aware of our products. So we are now working with LX houses. So I believe that will boost our sales in the future. Secondly, our technology is unique, not only in Korea but globally as well. So there are only like refrigerators with this door. Other than that, we have all the technologies. Thirdly, so the interior market in the future is not about materials. It's not about wood, stone. We are now using IoT. We are converging the future technologies. So we are developing these products in the future. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much, Mr. Oh Jae-hwan. Now let's have a Q&A session. So please prepare the microphones for the questions. So maybe you were not much aware of this field, but I'm sure you learned a lot. So if you have a question, yes, I have a question. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. So for home appliances, so the power consumption is very important, I believe. So when the door turns from non-see-through to see-through, is that the only time when there is a power is needed? And does it consume power in real life? So I only had 10 minutes, so I couldn't elaborate on that, but thank you for the good question. So I'm sure you know a little something about PDLC, smart window. So PDLC have 4 to 7 power consumption and even more than that. And it needs 80 volts power, and when the area gets larger, it takes more than that. But we only use 12 volts. We use LED. The voltage is very low, and we are developing a battery-based technology. So as it's 12 volts, we only need 3 batteries. And these days we have best batteries ever. So battery market is very big. And when it goes to off state, we don't need any power at all. So we can do it in reverse. But when we do that, the power gets on. And we actually tested this with LG. Always on display needed only 2,000 won power cost. So I have a question on price competitiveness, because you mentioned 2 markets, interior and home appliance. So when it comes to home appliance, we have this high-end market specifically. So early adapters are willing to pay more, but interior market, the competition is much more fierce. So what do you think about that? Do you think that you will have price competitiveness with existing products? And is there a possibility to come with lower prices? So yes, that is something I actually was worried the most, because how we are going to set our prices. As you can see, when compared to smart window, the price is low, but as we're focusing the interior market, it has to be low. So when we use a 400 by 800 wood slab, the cost is about 30,000 won. Consumers pay 100,000 won for a storage area, but we charge 60,000 won. So about double the price of the cheapest wood. And Hansem sells the wood door, 200,000 won to consumers. Actually, the cost is about 80,000 won. So it's about how much value we add. So what we did with LX from the beginning, they were actually a growing interior company. So we had to have that kind of partner with LX. So the cost of that is about 1/3 of the consumer price. So we believe that we have enough margin, and when it goes to a mass production, the price can be less than half of what we have today. Because it's PC and acryl, PMMA based, that is not very expensive. We use acryls, PMMA in quite everywhere, in restaurants everywhere. So the cost is not that high. So I cannot come up with actual prices here, but we believe 1/3 will be enough for that. Thank you for the question. Thank you for answering. So I think our time is done here. Thank you again for Mr. Oh Jae-hwan.
Let me introduce the next startup, which is related to air purification. A material exclusive company called JDAM. With the widespread of the COVID-19 pandemic, the global populations are now highly interested in a safe life with antibacterial and antivirus activities. JDAM is equipped with the next generation active bacterial air purification material called Katana, uses the combination of inorganic substances and the binders. Now I would like to introduce CEO Oh Jung-nok. Let's invite him with a big round of applause. Good afternoon. My name is Oh Jung-nok, CEO of JDAM, and we are exclusive company for the next generation antibacterial air purification material. First, I want to define the existing issues in this industry, followed by solution, business models, and our implication to you. The problem we want to solve is two. First, all kinds of solid materials may be even better if it's equipped with antimicrobial substances. And second, is there any way to purify any harmful gases and odor? The deodorizing products had some issues in the past. Usually it is in liquid and solid type. And for liquid, evaporation was the biggest issue. And second, the toxic substance is another issue. For the solid forms, silver, copper, and zinc have been widely used. But in silver, for example, it is quite expensive. It's about $100 per gram. And ionize reaction could be also the issue, and sometimes you can encounter some issues of lead, and that can be accumulated in your lung, and it can be a causing problem of pneumoconiosis. So how about activated carbon? Activated carbon captures the odor, and it functions as a deodorization. And without replacing or getting rid of it, it causes more problems. You can think of airport, subway stations, and they use the photocatalysis or plasma, and that costs a lot of money and keeps requiring electricity, and it has been always an issue. And our material is called katana. Dr. Bang Mingyu, the CTO of JDAM, researched for a material, and he worked in Samsung Electronics, mainly focusing on semiconductor, and he witnessed his friends' children suffering from skin diseases, and in later 2019, so antibacterial products have been widely popular along with the spread of COVID-19, and we are now having hands-on experience. So myself and Dr. Pang started this company. Katana creates hydroxy radical, and katana stands for catalyst. In the air, there are some oxygen and moisture, and it keeps creating hydroxy radical. Then what is hydroxy radical? You may be curious. Hydroxy radical exist in this space even, and may be the most powerful oxidation substance remaining in the nature. And while creating the harmful viruses, it creates some sterilization and disinfection and some chemical dismantling. And it's also very safe. I first asked you these two questions, and katana could be the answer for the first question. By adding 2 to 5% of katana onto any solid products, you can create some safety measures. And this is maybe like 1/3 or 1/4 cost compared to that of silver. And It's not like activated carbon capturing, and this one is a high functional separation material. And by being built in, until you throw away these products, it constantly acts with the reaction. We do not need any power sources like electricity or photovoltaic energy. We do not need any plug-in for these type of products. You see on the right side, these are the products that can have benefits of the antibacterial functions. You can think of the handles on a subway, luggage for traveling, air filter in your car, air purifying filters. You name it, you can apply it for anything. As mentioned, silver you need to pay for over $100 per gram, maybe for copper about $30, but by kilogram we only need $35, and it has some functions that the silver and activated carbon don't have. Then this is a genuinely new material. Regarding katana, we have about 3 patents registered. And katana can be applied to any kinds of products, and we've registered these patents on every single areas of a product. So from A to Z, we can have the entire manufacturing process within the company. And you think of the safety and the functions of antibacterial and deodorization, and these are PT and KC and any other organizations approved our functionality. Next is our business model. How can we make money in the future? We have some target products in a big range, but mostly it's polymer material-based products. And it's finished with the approval and verification, maybe zeolite, copper, silver, based home appliances, medical devices. These can have the application of a katana, and deodorization products can also apply katana, and we started to have some processing technology for painting and other chemicals. Target clients is the next topic. We can think of some final manufacturers, but in the middle you can think of Dow or Gask and Biocot, and these are all global companies. And they used to use copper, silver, and after processing, and they were able to provide some engineering services. But these are the mid to long-term global business for JDAM. And right now, we have some joint development project of air purification where we can create some royalty revenue. And that's also short-term business model goal. And these are the 3 strategies of the market entry. First, we have some joint project with some experts of global antibacterial materials. They already have a great distribution channels and a great number of clients, and they have great experiences. So by embracing their existing infrastructure and the network, we can introduce katana into their existing channel. So maybe in November this year, we plan to open a American branch. An EPA certificate will be achieved, and that is essential to enter the market of the US. With the branding of katana, we hope to promote the functionalities. And this is like a long-term project. And in short-term project, we can have a constant product development with the platform companies. And here we can create some revenues from royalty. And deal closing is our goal in October, and the first round is coming. And through this strategic investment, we can proceed it with the POC. And there's the Institute of Korean Chemicals, and in regard to air purification, we can have some joint research with this institute because they're a public organization, and we can achieve some credential from the organization. KSC is a Korea Startup Center program. And as a material company, I think we're the only one who was chosen by the organization, and that's how we prepare to open the American branches. And we got fully supported by this program. And in the first quarter, we hope to launch our products in the US, and we are doing a lot of content marketing through YouTube right now, and we are raising our standard to meet the demands of the US and the Europe markets. And these are the products we have a schedule already for commercialization. And like already 6 months ago, we've already did some joint marketing, research, and manufacturing. And by this coming November, we can start to calculate the estimated sales and revenue. And because this is a new B2B material businesses, we need some supporter. And there's AU, is a very famous company in polymer material, and we are working on the joint project with AU, and Kanam is another great partner for us. And for B2C, we have 3 partners. And for joint R&D, we have a Korea Research Institute of Chemical Technology and Microban from the US. There's the company called American Standard. You might hear of it. It's a bathroom item manufacturers, and we are now almost completing the products with them. And this will be the case that we export the Korean products to the U.S. market. And we've also had some accelerating programs. For example, a Korean Startup Academy. Our goal and milestone is an IPO by 2025 with those 3 stages. And we established in 2019. It's been about a year, and we've already quickly grew. And for 6 months, we've done a lot of research on the products itself and the marketing as well. And by 2022, we want to focus on deodorization products, and by 2025, maybe we can also think of expansion of a value chain. And by 2026, we want to expand our business to textile, so that we can provide some filter using antibacterial agents. And through global OEM projects, we want to do some volume business. By next month, we're almost there to withdraw 1 billion investment so that we can fully equip our manufacturing facilities. After the outbreak of COVID-19, we are desperate to have a safe daily life. Wherever you go, where you are, safety is important, and that safety can be guaranteed with the katana, our material. Thank you. Thank you. It was interesting to hear about a new material called katana, developed by JDAM. And now let's have a Q&A session by our referees. Thank you very much for your presentation. So, some functions of antibacterial activities, maybe you can think of how much influence and how much impact on human bodies, and how do you adjust that volume of the antibacterial portion? Well, it's additive. Katana is additive. So through various research and tests, 2% is an ideal for human body, and once you add 2%, it's fully binding with a polymer, and in any color, any shape, and any substances do not have deformation after having katana added. You can think of the handles and bars on the subway where you can easily find some germs and bacteria, and 2% combination is good enough to have these materials antibacterial. Thank you very much for your explanation. You mentioned about hydroxy radical. I also know that is widely well known, and it's a very good technology, and through various devices, it's creating a lot of revenues, but I'm not quite sure that how is it possible that hydroxyl radical is created without any power supply. Maybe you use oxygen and the moisture in the air, but so I can imagine some circulation, but how does your material create hydroxyl radical? I need some more explanation. Well, yeah, that's the technology, main technology that we have. Mr. Dr. Pang, the CTO of our company, actually majored in electricity and the chemical. Of course, you need a catalyst, but plasma and other materials are used only for to create hydroxyl radical. So maybe in higher temperature, like over 200 degrees Celsius, you can create that, and then it could also create ozone. And we use ionization with the energy that we can capture from the daily lives. And if you just try to rub your cell phone, it slightly moves, and that means that it has the electrical energy in the particles. I'm not able to answer the question because I'm not the CTO, but that's about how I can summarize that technology of creating hydroxyl radical. Well, if you think about the value chain, we can create this material maybe to the final users or other businesses, but currently I believe that you meet some market demands, and you want to enter the US as antibacterial additives, but then is this provided as the material itself, or maybe your clients want to have it in a different format of some kind of antibacterial agents? And then second, once it's added onto various products, I've seen some research results that you provided, but then once you have certificate and verification, is it possible for your clients that sell the product right away? Well, okay, stage A, mostly revenue is created from powder type, and there should be a master batch to create interim products that is a 20%, 30% enrichment. And you can imagine, you can multiply 10 to calculate the revenue in stage 2 and 3. And if you think of creating film, sheets, you can expand the value chain. And the reason we want to enter the American market, unfortunately, we do not have any certification of antibacterial agents. So we are not sure whether we can use the term antibacterial for our material. However, in the market in Europe, in America, they have BPI and EP in America and Europe. So that way, once we have these verifications and certification, we can actually call it katana additive, and we can use the term antibacterial agents, and that's why we want to enter American market. And that wraps up the pitching for the JDAM. Thank you very much for your presentation and all the answers.
So we are continuing with startup pitchings. Now let's meet our third company. So next company is providing easy, convenient, and safe privacy service. This privacy on-demand service is named Coconut. Please welcome CEO Kwak Ho Lim of Every Feb. They are providing the innovation every year, and they have this vision of making a safe internet culture. Please again welcome CEO Kwak Ho Lim of Every Feb. So good afternoon. I'm from Coconut, the SaaS-based privacy protection service, and my name is Kwak Ho Lim. Here you can see two informations. One, name. Second, my name and a telephone number. Which one is a personal information? The two can all be personal information. And do you know the reason why? Personal information is an information about a living individual, and it can identify an individual directly or indirectly. So identifying an individual is the key here. So that information is very important. And there's been 52.74 million leaks. So that's more than the number of Korean people. These leaked information is used in crime, such as voice phishing. How about companies? Companies are facing fines, and their credibility is going low. So we actually have this number. After this privacy leak, the number of people using camera apps has been lowered much. Actually, they were kicked out of the market after the leak. So the current situation is quite dire, but the number of leakage accidents actually went bifold in a few years. Actually, when we talk about the awareness, it's not even half of that. But is the problem only a corporate issue? I believe not. The first issue is that there are many technologies that not all companies can have. So these are existing privacy protection solutions, but this is a very saturated page. So we have a lot of solutions in the market, but all these solutions actually focuses on protections, and they don't actually care about regulations. Second issue is the regulation is not easy to follow up. In a company where they do not have a protection specialist, it is very hard to catch up the government regulation. You need an expert for that, but most of the companies don't have a privacy protection expert. Last issue is cost. So you've seen all the solutions, the maintenance and personnel cost is very high. So when it comes to privacy protection, when I was asked to pay this much, it would be impossible for me to do business. So what we do in Coconut, it's a SaaS-based privacy protection software. So our customers can store DB safely by company, and they can do personal information compliance and safe management. So you're seeing our process. The end users become a user of our client, and the encrypted data goes to that company and then comes to us, and we can provide the data through API on demand. Compared to existing solutions, and I've talked about what issues they had, the companies needed to have a solution for every area, but we provide 22 regulation-related service. And the personal data utilization used to be very hard to do in the past, but our clients can do that easily through our service. So maintenance cost and time is dramatically shortened. And we always provide service related to according to regulations. So all our services is based on these regulations. So our clients can collect, use, and destroy their data according to regulations through our service. And like what I showed you, the price of the solution and the maintenance price is very low, and we do not charge anything for personnel as well. So that is a cost cut. Though the Korean market is about 4.68 trillion won market, and the growth is about 1 trillion won year on year. When we look at the next 3 years, we expect our market would be 100 billion won worth. So when you use our service, you can protect your privacy information safely, and you can utilize them safely as well. We are doing B2B service, Coconut, and until 2024, we expect to provide B2C service as well before 2024. So these are our growth. We expect we would have 11 billion won sales by 2030 and have a 30% revenue. After we came into business in 2019, these are many things that we did. And we've also come to GENIE Forum and other occasions as well. And through that, we are doing MVP development. That was completed last year. We are protecting about 50,000 private informations. We are working with all these companies that you can see. Last year, we got investment from CN Venture Partners. This year, we attracted investment from Etri Holdings. We are preparing for being listed as their partner, and we have 1 listed patent and 1 listed trademarks. We are now working on listing 3 privacy protection patents. We are still currently transferring 1 technology from Etri as well. So we have a young CEO and experienced CTO, and we work together to solve the socially difficult problem, information protection problem. We look forward to work with more capable youth people. Coconut is with you to protect privacy information. Always remember us. Thank you very much for listening. So that was Coconut, a privacy on-demand service, and CEO Kwak Ho Lim. And now let's go to our Q&A session. So may I ask, was that a SaaS-based model? That was kind of first in Korea. And in Korea, that's not easy to do business model. So did you do any thing for that? So personally, it was, like you mentioned, it's SaaS and it was privacy protection. Both of them is not familiar in Korea, so there were a lot of worries, including me. I have many CEOs here, and privacy protection, as you know, is very difficult. And there were a lot of worries that it would not be easy to do. And like I said, protection was not enough for us to go into the market. So we're focusing protection and utilization of privacy data as well. So when we look at the global market, there are many SaaS-based privacy protection companies. We do GDPR, CCPA, and all these things are in Coconut. We are now focusing on Eastern market as well, Eastern Asian markets. So that way, I believe our market is quite stable in the future. So your clients, I saw Megazone. You're still working with that company. So if that solution can be used in their solution, will it be a unique solution of their company, or can it be a choice for them to grow further? And I looked at your data. You are now protecting about 50,000 privacy data currently, and you have many business models. And currently, your clients, are they using your products free, or are they paying for your products? So first answer to the first question. Megazone, Investing Global, AWS, we are working with this company, and Microsoft actually called us. So I cannot reveal everything here. But many companies using AWS actually had contacts with us because they have issues. And they wanted to be our partners, and so we wanted to give them choices. So again, like you said, currently we are one of them, but we are still working on to expand everything further. And in the Korean market, we don't have any rivals in the Korean market, so we want to be a first mover and become a unique company in the Korean market. And the answer to your second question, currently they are using free because we are MVP. And we ended the MVP and we tried to close that, but our MVP clients wanted to keep it, so we are now still providing it for free. So one last question. So if they use this service because you don't have any rivals in the market, but then they can transfer to other services. And let's think about the compatibility of the data. So I want to know a little bit more about the data compatibility, your strategies on that. So actually, that was one of the other key components of our development. So when they enter, there need to be a little bit of development. They have to be a development team, or they have to be working with a development partner. And then we provide them API. When all API is linked, exiting might not be very easy, but that is our strategy as well. Once you enter our company, then we can make you very stable. And even when you want to exit, we port every data as you want, so that is not something to be worried about. Thank you very much. That concludes our Q&A. Thank you very much, Mr. Kwak. So the second session, startup pitching, has come to its end. We have been with three good companies. We have the Q&A sessions. We will have another 10-minute break and continue with the third session. We will be back very soon.
We are on day one of the last session of GENIE Forum. Thank you for staying with us until session 3. In session 3, we have regional innovative outstanding companies. The first company is a leader in eco-friendly mobility called Binsen. The company utilized the eco-friendly energy sources in the marine industry. In particular, hydrogen fuel cell and battery can be utilized in shipbuilding and marine businesses, which will greatly contribute to more sustainable marine industry. Let us invite Director Seo Han-yong. My name is Seo Han-yong. Nice to meet you all. Recently, we have various issues, and one of the biggest one is COVID-19, of course, and then next one is carbon neutrality, net zero emission. These are the issues, and they all have something in common called hydrogen. And I recently participated in the International Hydrogen Conference, actually just today before I came here, and this is a global trend. In mid-18th centuries, industrialization started in the UK, and the UK was the superior power to have all the energy intensity and how to connect the industries based on the energy, and that is the mission of our company, Vincent. Always concerns about the future to connect all the industries based on a new source and types of energy. As mentioned before, in 18th centuries, fossil fuel was widely started to be used, and right now there are some intensifying marine pollution treaty. If you think of Korean standards, by 2030, it's a mandatory to order eco-friendly vessel only. Globally, not only in Korea but in Japan, there's a great trends to utilize hydrogen fuel, and there are a lot of efforts accordingly. As you can see, now the price of the hydrogen is about $8 per kilogram, and it is scheduled to lower to $2. And recently that conference mentioned by 2030 in the US, they will lower the price down to $1. It is actually faster to have the current automobile industry. And this hydrogen industry has a very rapid pace. And if you think about the volume market of the internal combustion engine-based vessel is about 14 trillion won, and among the engine market, maybe 20% will transfer to hydrogen. And I believe that it will be 100% instead of 20%. I can show you this one picture to explain everything we do in Vincent. There are a lot of components for vessels. Eco-friendly vessels will have the electric propulsion engine, and you see the blue casing, and there's an inverter and converter and cables all in one in this electric propulsion module. And maybe you can apply that to about 20-meter boat. Next one is lithium-ion battery pack. In August last month, we've achieved the certification, and there are only 2 companies achieved the certificates by Korea Register of Shipping, and we are one of them. And I will explain more about fuel cell module later. But what I want to focus here is that all these components cannot make the vessel shine. You have to integrate all these components and with a better understanding. And that way we can realize a better propulsion of vessels. If you see on the right, this is the engine in the hydrogen vessels. We have a contract with the Hyundai Motors. If you see in the middle, It used to be dirty, noisy engine room. And from first quarter of 2024, this will be a new engine room. And we are now in the project with our Singaporean partner. And it's about 7.5 megawatt, and maybe 50,000 ton of the vessels can have this much of the energy. And like inland mobility, it takes up some volume, and it doesn't mean that a good economy. And we've already reviewed the ammonia-based energies fuel. And now we have two business models for leisure power boat in a smaller volume. As you can see, these are already being piloted in the Ulsan Special Economic Zone. And within 2 years, they will continue more tests, because I believe that there is no criteria and regulations regarding the hydrogen fueled vessels, and we do not even have a charging stations. And that is why they do want to do more testing. And the right side is the water taxi. And this is already applied in San Francisco, and it will be commercialized by the second quarter of 2022. And we are discussing under this negotiation. This propulsion system with a high technology cannot be possible with us alone. So ABB and Danfoss are the partner for the powertrain, and Hyundai Motors is also the partner for PEMFC, and Navy 8 also joined us to develop a hydrogen fuel battery propulsion vessels. 4 years ago, July 4 years ago, we established the corporation. And 3 of us established this company with the capital of $1,000 only. We were pretty lucky. And a lot of people say businesses are based on lucks, and we've had a lot of lucks. And this June, we achieved the Series B closure. And as you can see, pre-valuation is about 45 billion won. And last month, KDB Bank decided to have a direct investment to our company, and also the small and medium-sized and startup agency also decided to help us, and we will do IR for Series C next year. As mentioned, not only in Korea but globally, it is a trend, and I do a lot of business meetings with Chinese and European and other overseas partners, and I got to learn that they don't have laws and regulations even, and they may have a few charging stations, but without laws and regulations in Korea, it's impossible to create something. So I mentioned about our Singaporean partner. They actually contacted us first for joint development. So in 2 years, we are about to see some tangible and substantial results, and you can expect great sensation that we will create with our Singaporean partner. So you are an expert in various materials. So now we are closely talking with the Ministry of Trade, Energy and Industry, as well as the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. And I actually talked to Hyundai Motors, and I asked if they could sell hydrogen fuel cells. And they said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Well, you have some fuels for vehicles," but they refused and saying that they do not plan for such businesses. But a year later, they actually contacted with a new person in charge. You may think it's strange because Hyundai Group, they have Hyundai Heavy Industry. Why would they contact us? Well, we did a test bed and prototype, and because it was possible because we are smaller size than the Hyundai Heavy Industry, and it might be more difficult for them to do such project for a year. And I believe we're the only company, and the only issue is that we don't have relevant laws and regulations, and that is why we are still in the close dialogues with relevant ministries. And this data actually was suddenly added after listening to that hydrogen conference. And people have a lot of questions about economic factors. And if you look at this graph, this part is the OPEX and the operating cost by 2030 in internal combustion engine. I'll say 500 kilowatt. It will be a mid-sized boat, and then it will become a 4 megawatt. And I told you that the medium-sized vessel from Korea to travel to the US is about 7.5 megawatt, and then the cost of opportunity will be even, and we have 9 years until then. Well, this is just the data. That means it could be accelerated. We don't have to wait for 9 years. There are a lot of cost down efforts going on regarding hydrogen price. And I'm always also curious by studying and doing some research and developing such issue. And then what about in 10 years? Maybe we will have a completely new energy sources. Maybe it's not going to be hydrogen anymore, but I do know one thing for sure, that hydrogen is the answer right now. So in summary, we are eco-friendly engine maker. And the 14 trillion is the market volume. And even in 1%, we hope to take it from that market. Thank you very much. And it was interesting to hear one of the hottest trends, and you mentioned. Let's move on to Q&A, and let's have some questions from referees. Thank you very much for your explanation. So currently, hydrogen vehicles and hydrogen trucks are widely tested and researched and developed inland, but Vincent is specialized in vessel and maritime areas. What is the biggest difference between inland mobility and the maritime mobility, and where do you find your most competitiveness? When we first proceeded with IR, someone asked me a similar question, and that's how I answered. Most of my colleagues are from shipbuilding companies. Maybe you've heard of the company called Electrian. They only do electricity-based products. But CEO said, we have a lot of doctors in electricity, but we don't have anybody expert in shipbuilding. And the reason I keep talking about the market volume of 14 trillion, when the shipbuilders schedule their shipbuilding, and engine is the key. They schedule their shipbuilding around engine. Engine is something that ship owner wants to keep. And inland mobility and maritime mobility, yes, have differences, and one of them is sodium, salt water, and we do have a patent for that. Then how about, can you just buy an engine from vehicle and just to apply that to vessels? Well, we thought about it, but friction rate is different between vehicles inland and vessels in the ocean. And the same engine cannot perform 90 megawatt of energy, and the powertrain has some friction issue once we apply this engine to vessels. Well, we are not doing research with Hyundai Motors. What we do is we introduce this engine to us, and we did our own research because we need some filter for sodium. You only need an air filter for inland mobility, but we need a triple filter for the vessel engine if you want to apply the same engine of a hydrogen from inland vehicle. According to your material, you expect a lot of revenue next year and the following year. Maybe Navigate project and other project will bring you more benefits. Why did you calculate this? Because next year and the following year is such a predictable years. Where does that come from, according to your calculation? Well, the data is possible and doable for us, and I live in Busan, and near Kimhae Airport, there's some Eco Delta Smart City being built right now, and we are the part of the consortium. And we are scheduled to provide the 5 vessels in that area, and the Navigate 8 have 150 Nexo, but it would be much more expensive. And you can multiply 70 million won applied by 150 units, and that's how I calculated. And of course, we will have a deposit and the balance at the end. And I also mentioned about the water taxi project in San Francisco. And this Saturday, I'm actually going to Finland to introduce this electric propulsion energy engine, because one of the ministers in actually Minister of Foreign Affairs in Finland wants to do matchmaking with our company to Finnish companies. So these are the tangible proof and the evidence that how I calculate this. And a foundry engine sales also is included there. And that wraps up the presentation and Q&A for Vincent. Thank you very much.
So we are with GENIE Forum Storage Demoday. And now let me introduce our second company. The real-time MEDI Check is here with us. They are doing AI analysis platform using real-time measurement data. They're building the entire process from production to distribution of pharmaceuticals, including vaccines. Through this, they are doing this medical startup company that acquires real-time medicine supply demand data and controls distribution and management tracking. Please welcome Director Im Jae-jun from Real Time Check. Good afternoon. I will now give a presentation on our platform for integrated management of real-time vaccination information. My name is Im Jae-jun. I'm General Manager of Real Time MediCheck. Nice to meet you. So the world is now concentrating its health capabilities on national prevention and treatment after the outbreak of the COVID pandemic. Korea, as an IT powerhouse, is taking a step further to these health capabilities and is developing outstanding activities in a systematic response. And one of that is medical regulation-free zone. So I'd like to introduce you the innovative activities in the medical field that we've been preparing even before the COVID. So we had this threat of a new virus that can threaten public safety numerous times in the past. In particular, in Korea, where we have a dense population, the damage caused by infectious diseases is inevitably fatal. So the government has been paying a lot of attention and support for prevention and treatment for many years. At the time when we started the demo project for the regulation-free zone, we had this dilemma of forecasting influenza vaccine demand, and it put a lot of pressure on both the Inoculation Management Agency and pharma companies. When we had leftover vaccines, the inventory cost was more than 40 billion won. When there are not enough vaccines, we are blamed for failing to forecast proper demand. And this was a cycle repeated over and over again. Real-Time MedicCheck has been conducting research on vaccine demand information since 2018, even before COVID-19. And in 2019, for the first time in Korea, non-identifying data from the Health Insurance Board was provided for the purpose of industrial support that can contribute for the improvement of public health. And now it has been certified by an accredited institution as well. And more than that, a real-time vaccination information platform was also developed to prevent the loss of erroneous input of data in the medical field. And this kind of system is playing a very important role in preventing human errors in computer input and enabling various digital healthcare business in a national disaster situation. So now I will explain how important the actual measurement data at the inoculation site is an infectious disease disaster situation. So before I go deeper, I'd like to ask a few questions. Do you like ramen? So do you remember the name of the ramen you had for the last time? And when you go to the supermarket and buy milk, what is the first thing you check? Then, how much do you know about injections that were injected directly into your body? And more than that, the vaccine informations are discarded after inoculation. So what if the information was different from what you knew? So as you can see, a hospital that you've never been have all the data of you. And that's absurd to have this situation. So we have been thinking why this error occurs. So in Korea, there are over 40,000 medical institutions that perform national vaccination. 25 million influenza and 30 million COVID vaccines are vaccinated every year. Important thing here is that people are entering the vaccination history of these many people one by one. So in other words, it's an environment where mistakes are bound to occur. So this information is very important when an individual has issues. But unless you are in that situation, you don't know the importance. So the problem was that the actual problem was not perceived as a problem. So we came up with a systematic thinking to solve these problems. The real-time integrated platform developed is a method that converts the existing manual history registration to a QR code input. It consists of a device that collects information and an analysis platform. The QR code input process is a method of sequentially scanning the individual QR code and the barcode of vaccine product on the vaccine information collector. So it's not difficult. But this one behavior change, you'll be able to receive various healthcare services because vaccines already contain a lot of information. So the data collected in this way is processed through AI, artificial intelligence, and remarkably reduce human error for registration and create new data to enable new growth businesses. So with this change of new registration method, management institutions and pharmaceutical companies and hospitals can prevent registration errors and can collect high-quality data as well. And because it's automatically counted, hospitals can reduce labor costs and resource wasted due to registration. And pharma companies can check inventory levels without actually visiting medical institutions. And the vaccination agencies will be able to monitor real-time demand for vaccines, distribution by region, oversupply, and shortage. And for the individuals, a more accurate history is immediately provided, and the vaccination time is accurately registered. And you'll be able to receive real-time MediCheck's follow-up service that allows you to self-check the side effects over time. So without depending on inoculation management institution, you can manage your vaccination by your My Data environment. Real-time MediCheck's advanced healthcare functions can be used in various data application businesses. So first of all, inoculation authentication function allows you to share the vaccination history of family members. And you can also reduce the costly clinical activities of small societies. So in order to protect our current technologies, we have composed a global patent portfolio that strengthens our entry strategy. We're doing also patent registration for products and services and product safety certifications. The real-time vaccine demand information integration platform has already completed the pilot application for 587 people who received COVID vaccine in Gangwon area. Starting with public health centers and consigned institutions, we plan to expand it to military bases and schools where independent vaccination is possible. In addition, we plan to take the lead in the transition to a smart city for public health administration. As there are more and more inquiries about overseas demand and products for services and products, we're now targeting overseas countries with poor IT environments, and we're now combining wired and wireless environments to come up with a shortwave method that can be a global standard model. At real-time MediCheck, we're doing our best to make the world recognize K-quarantine as a set of successive cases. For that, we are spreading the feasibility and benefits of our business through a variety of media. We're still preparing for various awards so that our efforts and future value from professional institutions can be checked. Even before the COVID vaccine came into Korea, this year, January, we're at the last stage of the demonstration project commercialization. We visited 3 U.S. states where they were going on a war against the COVID spread. And we did a data survey and concluded that a vaccine producer even needs our process. So if you don't change the process, the results will always be the same. Real-time MediCheck is now getting ready for post-COVID. And we do hope that our efforts will be of some help in overcoming the COVID crisis. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm sure you all have got an idea of what a real-time MediCheck is doing. Now let's go into our Q&A session. Thank you very much for the presentation. So about this system, it facilitates the recording and gets rid of the human error. So I understand that. So what is the profit model? I'm not sure about that, please. So our differentiation point when it comes to uh, medical data is very closed and it's very pricey to get the data. But we have our own collection system. That is our strong points. And our profit model is also related to device, but we also have this algorithm model. And we have this algorithm of side effects. And as we have much more people on the platforms, so we are now focusing the greater goods as well as our profits, but we're doing both tracks, and we're still developing profit models. So please focus more on data itself. I have maybe a kind of same question. So what you're doing is for the greater good and reducing social costs, and yes, that is good. But what I thought was that about the device, who will be paying for the device price? So the vaccination facilities, maybe hospitals. From the hospital point of view, what merits they have from buying your device? So from a hospital perspective, where they're utilize the device, can you elaborate that a little bit? So, like I said, we were doing the government project, so we are supporting the hospitals to provide them with the best price. So we are again provide at its best price for our devices. So from a hospital perspective, the registration come after vaccination. Vaccination comes first, the inoculation. So they have to finish the inoculation, and after that, they enter the data all by hand, and then it is systematizing and reducing the time for these personnel. So that is a benefit for the hospital. And next year, we're displaying our products in Las Vegas as well as Germany. The pediatric hospital have a lot of interest in our products because they can do vaccination and registration at the same time. Not many products do that. So pediatrics hospitals are showing a lot of interest to our products. Thank you very much. Again, thank you for listening. That was Mr. Lim Jae-jun from Real-Time MediCheck. Thank you very much.
Last but not least, let me introduce HG Solution with a special cable and the carbon-based material experts. As an R&D company, HG Solution is emerging in 2021 as a global, small but strong company. Let us invite CEO Cho Yong-gi of HG Solution with a great applaud. Hi, my name is Cho Yong-gi, a cable exclusive company called HG Solution. HG Solution has expert researchers to invent electromagnetic shielding and the carbon fibers. Special cables and the carbon material convergence technology is our expertise. And one of the expertise is the patent regarding electromagnetic shielding. In 2021, we started the mass production of cables, and with the new leap forward, we want to become a genuinely global market by expanding our overseas market. We have some missions of expansion of a market regarding a convergence of carbon materials. And we have a project of convergence of carbon materials. And right now we have a carbon plier is under mass production, and we have a robot special cable and the cables for vehicles. They're almost at the end of the R&D stage, and then we are now working on the flat angle cable for vehicles at the end of this year. Next one is about R&D infrastructure establishment and the advancement of our core technology through the domestic and international network, along with various government organizations, and we do have some achievement. And I mentioned about 4 organizations, and flat cable with the high voltage and the carbon flyer are some examples. And we have some intellectual property rights with including 2 patents. This is the market size. This is only for the robot cable. And between 2020 and 2026, over 12% of a growth rate is expected each year. By 2022, we expected 454 billion won, and that is the global market. And the domestic market is also expected to grow up to 54.6 billion won. We have vehicle cables and that have great demands for electric or self-driving vehicles. And thanks to the market trend, we expect to have more orders. These are robot cables that are under research. This is essential for strong shielding. It's because a robot is such a complicated component in the manufacturing line, and electromagnetic shielding can prevent any malfunctioning or wrong signal of the manufacturing conveyor belts. And robot cables have to constantly move, which requires flexibility. And in the long term, cable needs to be lighter due to the heavy arm of robots. HG Solution has developed a special shielding cable, and thanks to the government support, we've created this cable, and then we already finished the reliable test, and then we plan to do marketization of that special cable. We have a unique technology of manufacturing shielding cables based on the carbon fibers. And we also have a technology of weaving these carbon fibers. In particular, all our staff members have many years of experience of cables, and they are able to design decent cables. And Yura and LS Wires and other companies have demands for our technology. Along with the government support, we've created a special cable for robots, and in the future, we hope to have more manufacturing for the company called Yura. Maybe Yura is not popular and famous among you, but Hyundai Motors and Kia Motors are the partners, and then they do have a 2 trillion of sales, and not Korea is about 1.2 trillion, and they already finished the registration of a business in Korea, and Yura already finished and started having our products. Next one is about establishment of a sales portfolio that is available, that can respond to various industries. Thanks to sales increase, we have 3 benefits. First one, sales expansion and job creation. Second, we have alternative effect by importing new materials. And third, invigoration of carbon industries. With increased sales, we need management for resources, integrated performance, quality control, and that is how we can realize our mission. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much for your presentation, and let's dive into Q&A session right away. Thanks for your explanation. There have been a lot of carbon cable developers in the past, but you mentioned about electromagnetic shielding. Then what is different, and why are you unique among all the other competitors? Is it the coding? Is it the production? Well, if you think about the shielding materials, it used to be copper. And now, as an alternative, carbon fiber is introduced. And before we started this company, some of us were in a same company, and we were working on new material for shielding. And then it didn't have a great efficiency, and now we completed the level the same as the bronze. Any other questions? Okay, that wraps up the Q&A for HG Solution. Thank you.
So that was our 3rd session today. We were with Vincent, Real-Time Medicheck, and HG Solution. Thank you again for all the presenters for your wonderful presentations and remarks. So we have now reached the end of the first day of the 2021 GENIE Forum. Thank you everyone for having been with us today. Tomorrow's schedule will start at 2 p.m. just like today, here at the Korea Startup Foundation channel on YouTube. I hope you all will be with us tomorrow again. We will come back tomorrow with more fruitful information tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching.